Okay, let's dive into this. We all have this part of the brain tucked away at the back of our heads, something we probably learned about in biology class, the cerebellum. But what if I told you that for hundreds of years, we've only been looking at a tiny piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, you've heard it's for balance, for coordinating how you move. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. What is this thing really doing back there, every second of every day?
And for the longest time, that was pretty much the end of the story. The cerebellum was seen as the brain's gym coach, making sure you could walk a straight line or catch a baseball. Super important, for sure, but a pretty limited gig.
But what if its role in movement was just the most obvious thing it does? What if that was just the opening act for a much deeper, more profound function that is quietly shaping literally every moment of your life?
So first up, let's talk about its classic nickname, the brain's little brain. We've called it that forever, but as we're about to see, its role is anything but little.
Which brings us right to the modern view. It's so much more than just movement. The last decade of neuroscience has basically thrown out the old rulebook. Turns out the cerebellum isn't just coordinating your body, it's coordinating your mind.
We're now realizing the cerebellum is this massive hub for almost everything that makes us, well, us. It's knee-deep in managing our emotions, helping us navigate tricky social situations, and even shaping the actual flow of our thoughts. Think of it less like a coach and more like a central processor, constantly predicting and refining almost all of our mental activity.
And look, this isn't some fringe theory anymore. A brand new paper from 2024 put it in black and white: the cerebellum is a key player in how we think and how we feel. That one sentence completely changes the game.
So, if it's doing all of this, how in the world does it work? Well, the leading idea is that it's a kind of universal balancer, applying one single, elegant principle to every single thing it touches. This theory is called the Universal Cerebellar Transform, or UCT, and the idea behind it is actually brilliantly simple. It says the cerebellum's wiring does one fundamental job. It smooths things out, it puts them in the right sequence, and it corrects errors. And here's the kicker. It applies that exact same algorithm to everything, whether it's a physical movement, a complex thought, or an emotional reaction. So how does it pull this off? It's all about a constant, super fast feedback loop. So check this out. Step 1, the cortex, the thinking part of your brain, has an idea or an impulse. Instantly, in step 2, the cerebellum predicts what's supposed to happen next. Then step 3, it compares that prediction to what's actually happening and looks for any mismatch, any error. If it finds one, boom. Step 4, it zaps a tiny, super fast correction signal right back to the cortex. And this whole thing isn't a one-and-done deal. It's happening all the time.
And when I say all the time, I mean it. This entire prediction and correction loop is running somewhere between 45 and 80 times every single second. It is this incredibly fast, non-stop process of fine-tuning. Here's a way to think about it. The cerebellum is the processor that stops your brain from lagging. Like a video that's buffering, the cerebellum makes sure that doesn't happen, ensuring your internal world feels smooth and responsive by correcting these tiny errors before you could ever even notice them.
Now, what's really wild is that different fields of science have been describing this exact same process for a while. They were just using different words. It's like they were all touching a different part of the same elephant in a dark room.
So, for example, a new model calls this little mismatch a residual strain, like an imbalance in how information is flowing. Meanwhile, mainstream neuroscience has been calling it prediction error for years. Different names, same exact biological event. That tiny little wait a minute signal that fires when what you expect to happen and what actually happens don't line up.
So a prediction error is just the brain's internal "something's a little off here" signal. It's that fleeting feeling of surprise that makes your brain go, okay, time to update my model. And the cerebellum is the absolute master of detecting and minimizing that signal, constantly keeping our inner world running smoothly. Okay, so let's bring this theory down to earth with a very human experience. What does all this internal balancing have to do with something like shyness? Well, a brand new study suggests it has a lot to do with it.
So get this, researchers found a direct link. People who said they were shy also showed less synchronized brain activity in one very specific spot in their cerebellum. That specific spot is called the right crus eye, a part of the brain we know is involved in social thinking. The study saw that in shy people, the brain cells there were just less in sync. So let's connect the dots back to that universal transform idea. The implication is pretty mind-blowing.
a less coordinated cerebellum might struggle to smoothly predict social cues and adapt on the fly. This could create more of those prediction errors in social settings, leading to that feeling of hesitation that we call shyness. It suggests shyness might not just be a personality trait, but a direct reflection of how well this neural balancing act is working.
So, when you put it all together, from how we move, to how we think, to how we interact, a powerful new picture of the cerebellum starts to emerge. It's not just the gym coach, it's the silent conductor of our entire conscious experience.
And that really is the crucial point here. The cerebellum is the silent conductor, making sure our inner world feels smooth, stable, and continuous. The reason your thoughts seem to flow, your emotions feel relatively stable, and reality doesn't feel like a glitchy mess is because this little brain is working tirelessly behind the scenes, smoothing out all the bumps.
I mean, this conductor's job is huge. It refines the raw, chaotic data from the rest of the brain into a seamless stream of consciousness. It helps stabilize our moods. It corrects our mental mistakes before we're even aware we made them. And ultimately, it helps create the unified, coherent sense of reality that we all live in every single day.
And that leaves us with one last massive question. If a perfectly tuned cerebellum is what makes our reality feel stable and continuous, what happens when that conductor gets a little out of tune? What conditions, from anxiety to autism to cognitive disorders, might actually have their roots right here in a disruption of this fundamental balancing act? That is the new frontier that scientists are just beginning to explore.